بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بسنته بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending the salutations upon the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, and upon his family and his companions, and upon all those who follow upon his guidance into the establishment of the last day. To proceed, إخوان, فنواصل معكم في هذه الليلة المباركة الكريمة عونا من الرحمن الرحيم. So we continue in this blessed and noble night of ours, seeking the aid and the assistance of our Lord, the most merciful and the most compassionate. مستفيدين ومتعلمين من فن النحو, as we continue to learn together and educate ourselves from the science of grammar, مع شيخنا وإمامنا الشيخ سليمان AL-Uyoonee حفظه الله تعالى, with our beloved Shaykh, our beloved Imam Sulayman AL-Uyoonee, شرحا على كتابه النحو الصغير, as he explains one of his books, one of his works that has been called the small grammar. وهذا هو الجزء الثالث, and this is class number 3.
طيب, ما هذه الأحكام الإفرادية التي تستحقها الكلمة بصفتها مفردة؟
So he says, so what are these individual rulings that the particular word is deserved with, or the particular word is explained by, these individual rulings that the word carries when the word is by itself. So he says, what are they?
يقول: فيدرس الكلمة أنواع الكلمة وانقسام الكلمة إلى نكرة ومعرفة وانقسام الكلمة إلى معرب ومبني.
So he says these أحكام إفرادية, these individual rulings or legislations that are established for the word itself, what are they? He says the word, or when you study the particular word itself, it teaches, number one, أنواع الكلمة, the various types of words. He says secondly, it teaches the breakdown or the classification or the categories of the word being broken down to be nakira or ma'rifa, to either be indefinite or definite. He says number 3, the breaking down of the word to either being mu'rab or mabni. When the word is mu'rab, it is fully declined, meaning it accepts a dhamma, a fatha or kasra, or the word is mabni, meaning it does not accept a dhamma, a fatha and a kasra.
هذه هي الأحكام الإفرادية, يعني أحكام الكلمة لها 3 أنواع.
So it says, so these are أحكام إفرادية. These are the individual rulings that are particular to the particular word. So the word itself in the Arabic language, they are of 3 types. 3 categories.
ستأتي إما اسم وإما فعل وإما حرف.
He says the words in the Arabic language, they are of 3 categories, 3 types. Every word in the Arabic language is either going to be ismun, fi'lun, aw harfun. It's either going to be a noun, a verb, or a particle, or you can say a preposition,
كل كلمة لابد أن تكون اسم أو فعل أو حرف.
So every word in the Arabic language, when you break it down, is either going to be, once again, ismun, fi'lun, aw harfun. It's either going to be a noun, a verb, or a particle.
طيب, والثاني انقسام الكلمة إلى انقسام الاسم إلى نكرة ومعرفة.
So he says, and the second is the breaking down of the noun, the ism, either to be a nakira or ma'rifa, either to be an indefinite or definite.
الأسماء كلها إما معرفة وإما نكرة.
So he says the nouns, all of the nouns, each particular noun is either going to be nakiratun or ma'rifatun. It's either going to be indefinite or definite.
الحكم الثالث انقسام الكلمة إلى معرب ومبني.
And as for the third ruling, it is the inqisamul kalima, the breaking down of the word, the classification of the word, or the category of the word being broken down to either being mu'rab or mabni, either being declined, that it can take a dhamma, fatha, or kasra, or the word is solid or sound. It does not change. It's going to remain in one particular way.
كلمة إما أن تكون معربة وإما أن تكون مبنية.
So it says meaning that the word is either going to be mu'rab or it's going to be mabni. It's going to accept the changing from a dhamma to a fatha to a kasra, or the word is going to be what is called mabniyun.
إما أن تكون معربة وإما أن تكون مبنية. إذن فأحكام الكلمة يعني الأحكام الإفرادية التي تكتسبها الكلمة بصفتها مفردة هي ثلاثة أحكام.
So once again, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he reiterates, he says, so as for the individual rulings of the word, when the word is by itself, he says they are of three rules, they are of three rulings.
ما هي يا أخوان؟
So he says, what are they? What are they, oh my brothers? What are they? Who can answer?
أنواع الكلمة يعني انقسامها إلى اسم وفعل وحرف، وانقسام الاسم إلى نكرة ومعرفة، وانقسام الكلمة إلى معرب ومبني.
So the Shaykh, he answers his question. He says, firstly, the breaking down of the word into one of its three categories, either ismun, fi'lun, or harafun, a noun, a verb, or a particle. Number two, the breaking down of the noun to either being nakira or ma'rifa, either being indefinite or definite. And the third, the breaking down of the word to either being mu'rab or mabni, to accepting the change of a dhamma, a fatha, or a kasra, or the noun remains in one particular state.
طيب. وأما أحكام الكلام يعني الكلمة التي درسناها كلمة 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 إذا ألفت بينها ستكون لنا كلاما يعني جملة.
So he says, as for ahkamul kalam, as for the rulings of speech, meaning the words that we study word by word. These words that are used between us, that we use between ourselves, they're going to come and form kalaman, and form speech. He says meaning a sentence. These words, kalimatan, kalimatan, kalima, the words that are used to form kalaman, speech. He says meaning sentences.
هذه الجمل إما أن تبدأ باسم مثل المسجد واسع، الله رحيم، العلم نافع.
He says, so either these sentences, either they begin with a noun. Either these sentences are going to begin with a noun. For example, if you were to say in the Arabic language, Al-Masjidu Wasi'un. Al-Masjidu Wasi'un. If you were to say the mosque or the masjid is spacious or is vast. Or if you were to say Allahu Rahimun. If you were to say Allah is merciful. Or if you were to say Al-Ilmu Nafi'un. Knowledge is beneficial.
فنسميها جملة اسمية.
Then these types of sentences that begin with a noun, they are called in the Arabic language jumlatun ismiya. Jumlatun ismiya. They are called nominal sentences, or sentences that begin with a noun. Sentences that begin with a noun.
وإما أن تبدأ بفعل.
He says, or the sentences are going to start with a verb. So either they're going to start with a noun or they're going to start with a verb.
مثل رحم الله المسلمين انفتح الباب ذهب زيد.
He says, like if you were to say in the Arabic language, رحم الله المسلمين, Allah has mercy or had mercy on the Muslims. Or if you were to say, انفتح الباب, the door was opened. Or if you were to say, ذهب زيد, Zayd left, or Zayd went.
فنسميها جملة فعلية.
Then these sentences, we call these sentences verbal sentences. Verbal sentences, or sentences that begin with a verb. Sentences that begin with a verb.
إذن فالجمل الذي هي الكلام إما جملة اسمية بدأت باسم أو جملة فعلية بدأت بفعل.
He says, so therefore, the sentences, that which is kalam or speech, the sentences, he says either, there are two types. Either jumlatun ismiya, there are nominal sentences, and a nominal sentence is a sentence that begins with a noun. A sentence that begins with a noun. Or the sentence is jumlatun fi'liya, a verbal sentence, or a sentence that begins with a verb.
طيب الكلمة التي درسنا من قبل أحكامها الإفرادية أحكام ثابتة لها، هذه الكلمة إذا أخذتها ووضعتها في جملة، أدخلتها في جملة اسمية أو فعلية، يستجد لها أحكام جديدة لم تكن لها عندما كانت مفردة.
So then the Shaykh, he says, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, so the word that we studied before, for example, the pillars and the rulings of the particular word, when the word is alone, that we learn ahkamun ifradiyah, those rulings that are sound and they are established with the particular word. He says, but this word, when we place this word in a sentence, either a nominal sentence or the verbal sentence, now there are new rulings that are attached to this word that were not connected to it before that. There are new rulings that are given to this word now because we place this word in a sentence, either in a nominal sentence or a verbal sentence. And these rulings are new rulings that were not connected to it before that.
تكتسب أحكاما جديدة.
So now the word has new rulings, new pillars, new principles that are connected to it.
تكن لها عندما كانت مفردة.
And these new rulings, once again, were not connected to this word when the word stood alone.
نسميها الأحكام التركيبية.
So these rulings are called أحكام ترتيبية. أحكام تركيبية. They are rulings that are arranged rulings. تركيبية. They are rulings that are given to the word because now it's in a sentence. Now it's arranged, it is joined, it is coupled together in a particular sentence.
يعني أحكام اكتسبتها الكلمة عندما دخلت في تركيب. يعني في.
So meaning that these rulings are connected to the particular word because now the word, it is arranged. It's a word that's in arrangement now.
جملة.
He says meaning it is placed in a sentence. It is now, is no longer mufradatun. It is no longer alone. Now the word, it has been placed in a sentence.
فكلمة باب وحدها هكذا باب قلنا اسم ونكرة ومعرب.
So for example, the word by itself, the word by itself, bab, bab, the word babun, which is a door, or can also mean a chapter. The word by itself, we say about it that is ismun nakiratun mu'rabun. It is a noun, it is indefinite, and it is declined. It is fully declined, meaning it can accept a dhamma, you can say babun. It can accept a fatha, you can say baban. And it can accept a kasra, you can say babin. This is mu'rab.
عن أحكام نعرفها ما نحتاج إلى جملة.
So these are rulings that we know, we identify, and we are not in need to place this word in a sentence to learn these rulings. These are rulings that are naturally with the word. We are not in need to place the word in a sentence.
أو فاعل أو خبر ما ندري.
He says, but, for example, the word مفعول به أو فاعل أو خبر. He says the مفعول به, translators note, the مفعول به is the accusative noun that the action of the verb falls on. Or the fa'il, the doer of the verb, or the khabar, the thing that comes to complete the nominal sentence. He says we cannot identify these. If we were asked about these particular rulings, we don't know. He says because these rulings, the maf'ulun bihi, the fa'il, the khabar, they are called the ahkamun at-tarkibiyya. They are rulings that are placed on the word because of the arrangement of the word. They cannot be found if the word stands alone. They cannot be found if the word stands alone. So you are in need of a sentence to find the maf'ulun bihi or the fa'il or the khabar. These are called ahkamun tarkibiyya. Ahkamun tarkibiyya, those rulings that are of arrangement, those arranged rulings. So these rulings here, the ahkamun tarkibiyya, they are not connected to a word until the word is placed in a sentence. When the word is alone, these rulings are not connected with it. They are only connected to the word when the word is placed fil jumla, in the sentence. So if the word is placed or arranged in a particular sentence, now the word has new rulings that are connected with it. And these rulings are called ahkamun tarkibiyya. Ahkamun tarkibiyya, the arranged rulings. Because now the word is placed in a sentence. So, for example, the word, it could be in the sentence, so the word can be mubtada'un, it can be the theme or the subject. For example, if you were to say al-babu kabirun, al-babu kabirun, the door is large. He says, or it could be the khabar, the thing that comes to complete the nominal sentence. For example, if you were to say هذا باب, this is a door. This is a door. He says, or the word can be the doer. If you were to say إن فتح الباب, the door has been opened. إن فتح الباب, the door has been opened. The door here is the doer. He says, or if you were to or the word can be مفعولا به. It can be the accusative noun that the action of the verb falls on. For example, if you were to say فتحت الباب, I opened the door. I opened the door.
هكذا أحكام تركيبية. ما المراد بالأحكام التركيبية؟ الأحكام التي تكتسبها الكلمة عندما تدخل في تركيب، يعني في جملة.
So he says, and thus forth. So he says, these rulings here, they are called ahkamun tarkibiyah. Ahkamun tarkibiyah. They are arranged rulings. So he says, what is the intent with these particular types of rulings here? He says they are the rulings that are coupled with the word when the word is placed in a particular arrangement. He says, meaning a sentence. Meaning a sentence.
هذه الأحكام التركيبية كثيرة.
So he says, next point. These ahkam tarkibiyah, these arranged rulings, these rulings that are coupled with the word when the word is when the word is arranged or when the word is placed in a sentence, they are many. They are many. They are numerous.
كثيرة وهي أكثر النحو.
And they are, or they make up most of the affairs of grammar. They make up most of the affairs of grammar.
هي أكثر النحو ولأنها كثيرة رتبها النحويون ترتيبا معينا.
So, because they are numerous and because they are the most with regards to grammar, the scholars who specialize in grammar, they explain them, they lay them out tartiban muayyinan, with a certain particular arrangement.
على الترتيب الذي ذكره المصنف.
And that is the arrangement that the author has mentioned. Hafidhahullah ta'ala. Translator's note, meaning the Shaykh himself, and he's referring to himself in the third person. فائدة يا إخوانا benefit, وهذا يدل على التواضع, and this shows humility, to mention yourself in the third person.
فقال ويدرس في الكلام الجملة الفعلية والجملة الاسمية ومكملات الجملتين من منصوبات ومجرورات وتوابع وإعراب الفعل المضارع رفعا ونصبا وجزما.
And that's the words of himself, the author, although he's referring to himself in the third person, as he says, and what is being sought after is study with regards to kalam, with regards to speech, is the verbal sentence and the nominal sentence, and those things that complete both of these types of sentences, those things that are accusative and those things that are genitive, and those tawabi', those things that follow them in rulings, and the grammatical breakdown of the verb of the present tense when it's nominative or accusative, and when it's jazman.
إذن بدأوا بالجملة الفعلية.
He says, so therefore, the scholars of grammar, they begin with the jumlatun fi'liya, the verbal sentence.
درسوا الأحكام النحوية الخاصة بالجملة الفعلية.
So they lay out, they lay out the rulings, the grammatical rulings that are specific and particular to the verbal sentence.
وهي كما سيأتي الفاعل ونائب الفاعل.
And they are, as is going to come, they are al-fa'il wa na'ibu al-fa'il. They are the doer and the one that's in place of the doer, the representative of the doer.
طيب انتهينا من الأحكام النحوية الجمل الفعلية انتقلوا للجملة الاسمية.
So then after they have completed the rulings of the verbal sentence, then they transfer and they transition rather to the nominal sentence.
الترتيب والتنظيم. فدرسوا الأحكام النحوية الخاصة بالجملة الاسمية.
So then after that, they learn or they teach the rulings of the verbal sentence, and then they transition the rulings of the nominal sentence. meaning those rulings that are particular for the jumlatun ismiya, for the nominal sentence, the sentence that begins with a noun, the sentence that begins with a noun.
وهي كما سيأتي المبتدأ والخبر ونواسخ الابتداء.
He says, and they are al-mubtada'u wal-khabaru, they are the subject of the sentence and the thing, the khabar, that comes to complete the mubtada', and nawasikhu al-ibtida', the invalidators of the mubtada', and and also they are the rulings of kana, the word kana, he was, and its sisters, and the rulings of inna and its sisters, and the rulings of dhanna and its sisters.
فهذه أحكام الجملة الفعلية حكمان الفاعل ونائب الفاعل، وهذه أحكام الجملة الاسمية 4 أحكام.
So then, with regards to the verbal sentence, 2 affairs here: the fa'il wa na'ib al-fa'il, the doer and the representative of the doer. And then, with regards to the nominal sentence, there are 4 rulings here.
المبتدأ والخبر وكان وأخواتها وإن أخواتها وظننت وأخواتها.
And they are the mubtada and the khabar, and kana and its sisters, and inna and its sisters, and dhanantu and its sisters.
ثم يدرسون مكملات الجملتين.
Then after that, the scholars of grammar, after they have laid out the verbal sentence and the rulings of the verbal sentence and what makes up the verbal sentence, and then they lay out the nominal sentence and the rulings of the nominal sentence and what makes up the nominal sentence, then they go into mukammalati al-jumlatain. Then they explain and they teach and clarify and lay out those things that complete the sentence. These 2 sentences, the verbal sentence and the nominal sentence.
مكملات الجملتين. نعم، الجملة الاسمية أو الفعلية لها أركان.
So he says the sentences, once again, the verbal sentence, the sentence that begins with the verb, and the nominal sentence, the sentence that begins with the noun. He says these 2 sentences, both of them, they have pillars. Both of them, they are made up of pillars.
فالفعلية فعل فاعل أو
So the pillars of al-fi'liya, what are they? They are fi'lun wa fa'il. They are the verb and the doer of the verb. Or fi'lun and na'ib al-fa'il. So the verbal sentence, it can either be, the pillars of the verbal sentence can either be fi'lun wa fa'il, the verb and the doer of the verb, or fi'lun wa na'ib al-fi'il, or fi'lun wa na'ib al-fa'il, or the verb and the representative of the verb.
والاسمية مبتدأ أو خبر أو ناسخ، يعني كان أو إن أو ظننت.
So he says, as for the nominal sentence, the sentence that begins with the noun, its pillars are either mubtada'un wa khabar, the subject of the sentence, or the khabar, the thing that completes the meaning of the mubtada', or nasikh, meaning kana and its sisters, or inna and its sisters, or dhanantu and its sisters.
مع ما كان مبتدأ وخبرا.
He says, with that which is the mubtada' and the khabar, meaning that which is the theme of the sentence or the subject of the sentence, and the khabar, the thing that comes to complete the meaning of the mubtada'.
يعني اسم الناسخ خبر الناسخ.
So he says, meaning the ism nasikh, the noun of kana or inna or dhanantu, and the khabar of كان أو إن or ظننت.
هذه الأركان. لكن قد يحتاج العربي إلى أن يزيد في الجملة غير ذلك.
He says, but the Arab, he may be in need in his sentence, in his speech, to add something to it that is not from these things that we just mentioned.
فقد يقول في الجملة الفعلية جاء محمد فعل وفاعل اكتملت الجملة الفعلية.
So he says, for example, the sentence جاء محمد وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. جاء محمد. For example, Muhammad came. This is a jumlatul fi'liya, a verbal sentence. So he says this sentence here, it has the fi'lun wa fa'il. It is made up of the verb and the doer of the verb. So the verbal sentence is complete. The verbal sentence is complete.
اكتملت الجملة الفعلية جاء محمد. قد يحتاج إلى أن يبين زمان المجيء متى جاء.
So the speaker may be in need of clarifying the time that he came in. متى جاء? When did he come? So now something additional, something added may be added to the verb and the doer. He may want to clarify, he may be in need to clarify, when did he come?
يقول جاء محمد ليلا.
So he may say, for example, جاء محمد ليلا. Muhammad came at night. جاء محمد ليلا. So he may say, Muhammad came at night or during the night.
أو يبين سبب المجيء لماذا جاء.
Or another example, he may mention or he may be in need to mention why did he come, the reason that he came. So he may be in need to mention the time he came. جاء محمد ليلا. Muhammad came at night, or you can say during the night. Or he may be in need to clarify سبب المجيء or سبب المجيء, why or the reason that he came.
تقول جاء محمد طلبا للعلم.
So he may say جاء محمد طلبا للعلم. طلبا للعلم. He may say Muhammad came seeking knowledge or requesting, seeking after knowledge.
أو يبين حالة محمد وقت المجيء.
He says, or the person may be in need to clarify the condition of Muhammad, the how Muhammad was, his condition when he during the time that he came. So he may say,
محمد راكضا.
So he may say, جاء محمد راكبا. Muhammad came riding. Muhammad came riding.
وهكذا هناك أشياء قد يحتاج العربي إلى أن يضيفها على الجملة بعد اكتمال أركانها ليبين قيدا.
So he says, and thus forth. So there are things that the Arab may be in need of to add to the particular sentence after the things that make up or after the completion of the pillars being there in the sentence in order to clarify something specific. In order to clarify something specific.
في الجملة إما زمان الفعل أو مكان الفعل أو سبب الفعل أو حال يعني هيئة أو نحو ذلك.
And these things that the Arab might be in need of mentioning or clarifying something specific with regard to the sentence, like the time of the verb, the doer of the verb, or the place of the verb, meaning the place that the verb was done, or the reason, the why, the person who was doing the verb, why he did it. He said, or to clarify the how he did it, his condition, why he was doing it, and thus forth.
هذه الأشياء التي تأتي بعد اكتمال الجملة، يعني بعد المبتدأ والخبر وبعد الفعل والفاعل، نسميها مكملات الجملتين.
So then the Shaykh, Hafidahullah Ta'ala, he mentions another tremendous point for those who are studying grammar. He says, so these affairs here, these things that come after the completion of the sentence, meaning after the mubtada and the khabar, if you're talking about a nominal sentence, or after the fi'l wal fa'il, after the verb and the do of the verb, if you're talking about a verbal sentence, these things are called mukammalati al-jumlatain. These things are called those things that they come after, they're the completion of these two sentences. They're added after the pillars of this particular sentence are already mentioned. These are called mukammalati al-jumlatain. So he says, oh my brothers, what are these called again? Who can mention? What are they called? So one of the brothers, he says, mukammalati al-jumlatain, that which completes the two types of sentences. They are called mukammalat.
وقديما كان العلماء يسمون أركان الجملة يسمونها العمدة.
He says, and the scholars of the past, the grammatical scholars of the past, the scholars of grammar, they used to call the pillars of the sentence al-umda, al-umad, al-umda, the pillars of the sentence.
ويسمون المكملات الفضلات.
And they used to call al-mukammalat, the scholars of the past, the salaf, they used to call that which is from the mukammalat al-fadalat. So they would call the pillars of the sentences al-umda or al-umad, and they will call al-mukammalat al-fadalat. So they would say this is called the umda, that which is from the pillars of the sentence, and this is called al-fadala, that which is extra. It doesn't make up the sentence, it is added, it is extra. So it says, meaning these are terms, terminologies. So he says, meaning the umda means rukn, that is a pillar, and al-fadala means mukammal. It is that which is not from the pillars, but it completes the sentence, but it's not from the foundation or the pillars of the sentence.
ما هذه المكملات التي يكمل بها العربي الجملة الاسمية أو الجملة الفعلية؟
So he says, so now, next question. So what are these mukammalat? What are these things that are additional that make up the sentence but are not from the pillars or the foundation of the sentence that the Arab uses in the nominal sentence or the verbal sentence? What are they?
حصرها المصنف فقال مكملات الجملتين من منصوبات ومجرورات وتوابع.
So he says, the author here, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he mentions them as he says, mukammalat al-jumlatain, that which completes these two types of sentences, that which is extra, additional, not from the pillars or the foundation of the sentence, from those things that are accusative, and those things that are genitive, and those things that follow both of them, meaning their rulings.
مكملات الجملتين إما منصوبات وستأتي.
So he says, meaning the mansubat, and he says this is going to come.
وهي المفاعيل الخمسة المفعول به وفيه وله ومعه والمطلق.
So he says they are al-mafa'il al-khamsa. They are the 5 things that are from the maf'ul. And they are the maf'ul bihi, the maf'ulun fihi, the maf'ulun lahu, and the maf'ulun ma'ahu, and what is called al-mutlaq. Al-mutlaq.
ثم الحال والتمييز والمستثنى والمنادى.
He says, and then after that, al-hal, and what is called al-tamyiz, and what is called al-mustathna. Al-mustathna is those exceptions. Wal-munada, and the munada is those particles of calling someone. Those particles of calling someone. طيب إن شاء الله تعالى يا إخوان نكتفي بهذا. وصلنا إلى المنصوبات فنكتفي بهذا بإذن الله تعالى. So we have arrived with our Shaik Sulayman AL-Uyoonee at his statement and the mansubat, those things that make those particles of the accusative that makes the noun or the verb end in fatha, or what takes the place of fatha. So we'll stop there inshallah ta'ala. وجزاكم الله خيرا. وهذا هو الدرس الثالث. وغدا إن شاء الله تعالى نكمل ونأتي بالدرس الرابع. So tonight was class number 3, and tomorrow inshallah ta'ala we'll come with the 4th class بإذن الله تعالى. وجزاكم الله خيرا وأكرمكم الله. فنصبت فمن الله وأن أخطأت فمن نفسي. Anything we said that's correct is from Allah, and anything we said that's incorrect is from ourselves. وجزاكم الله خيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.